Hello, welcome to Math for All, where we try to make math creative, curious, and inclusive for everyone. I'm Molly Boki.
I'm Heidi Subnani. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are really excited to speak with two people who have been kind of at the forefront of a new math curriculum that we're really excited about, Humanizing Mathematics. And so Brooke and Tywana are going to be here with us in just a moment. But we just want to say welcome to everybody. If you would like to follow along on Blue Sky, you can do that, or on our YouTube or Facebook channels. That way you will know when a new show is coming up. We have quite a few here in the next couple of weeks happening, and you might have noticed that during season 5, we have all women and non-binary folk as our guests, and that's intentional. We're doing that on purpose because we wanted to celebrate a year number 5, even though we'd like to have more women or non-binary folk than the gentlemen who often join us. We're being really intentional about it this year. So just pointing that out and follow along. You can also find us at mathforall.us. And Molly has our book. If you would like to get that at Didex, you can do that and have some fun fraction, decimal, and integer activators with your students.
Yes. And we are going to be talking about Humanizing Mathematics, which is a brand new curriculum. And I'm excited to talk about it. Heidi and I got some sneak peek previews. So we've been able to take a look at it, and I think people are really going to love it. So we're going to be talking to Tywana Fulford and Brooke Powers today. Let me introduce them. Tywana Fulford is the pre-K to 5 mathematics specialist at Open Up Resources, where she supports teachers and designs curriculum that helps all children see themselves as confident and capable mathematicians. With nearly 20 years of experience in education, Tywana has dedicated her career to building positive math identities and opening doors to a deep understanding of mathematics. Early in her career, Tywana was nominated to participate in a focus group aimed at supporting the success of African American males in mathematics. Through intentional relationship building and strength-based instruction, her students demonstrated consistent growth and achievement. Today, she brings that same passion from the classroom to her work as lead curriculum developer and project architect for Humanizing Mathematics pre-K to 5. She believes that when all students' voices are heard and their experiences are centered, all children can find joy, brilliance, and belonging in mathematics. Brooke Powers is currently the Managing Director of Academics, Equity, and Social Justice at Open Up Resources. As a former middle school math teacher, she champions the idea that every student can excel with access to engaging grade-level mathematics that incorporates student identities. Brooke leverages her experience from teaching, designing, and delivering professional learning and creating openly accessible math and ELA curricula to craft inspiring and actionable presentations for educators and leaders. Her goal is to empower educators with practical strategies that foster equity, engagement, and academic excellence in every classroom. So let's bring these ladies in. Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Welcome.
so excited to be here.
Good. We're excited to hear the story of this curriculum, and that's where we usually start. So, what is the story of the conception of Humanizing Mathematics?
Yes, so I get super excited because we get to share this with the world. This is our baby. We have been working on it for many, many years. So it's a labor of love. many years.
So how many years?
We're going
5,
on
right?
5. Yeah, this is the
pandemic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
it's the pandemic, baby.
It really is.
It is.
We understand that.
So, yes, definitely. So, when I think of humanizing mathematics, I always come back to this core idea. It's about designing these math experiences that honor who children already are while still holding expectations for their thinking. So I mean, I want to be really, really clear that this isn't just about making the math fun or adding some cute context into it. It's much deeper than that. It's about how students are positioned in the math classroom. So we want to make sure that students are being able to see themselves in the math classroom. So do they see themselves as someone whose ideas that matter or someone who can make sense of the mathematics? That's our goal with Humanizing Mathematics. So at the heart of Humanizing, we have identity, which is our logo. If you see our logo for Humanizing Mathematics, it's about creating classrooms where children can bring their whole selves. They can bring their cultures, their languages, experiences, all of their different ways of thinking all into the math classroom. All is welcome, because, when students have to choose between who they are and how they learn, they shouldn't have to choose between that. So when they don't have to choose, something very, very powerful happens. They start to take risks. They are no longer scared. They share their unfinished ideas. They continue to persist through challenges, and then they start to see themselves as a mathematician. So they're seen as a capable mathematician. So Humanizing Mathematics is making sure that every single child is seen as a capable mathematician, not someday, not after remediation, but it's right now. So all of their strategies, all of their questions, all of their lived experiences, all bring it into the classroom. And then a big part of this work is that it's intentionally designed at the margin. So instead of creating instruction for some imaginary student that's the average student and figuring out how to support everyone else, we start by asking who has historically been left out of the full participation in math, or whose brilliance hasn't been recognized just yet. So when you start there, something very powerful happens, something special happens. You don't narrow the access, you start to expand it, and you end up making or designing experiences for all students and not just some. So now when we incorporate Humanizing Mathematics, which will be coming out very, very soon, students are solving math problems. They're talking to each other. They're talking about their thinking. They're showing what they know in different ways. They're having fun. They're learning about different cultures. They're sharing about themselves. And they also learn that mistakes aren't something that should be hidden, that they shouldn't hide those. They're expected, like they're shared, they're learned. They can learn from them, and therefore math becomes fun, it becomes interesting, becomes something social where they enjoy math instead of saying, oh, we got to do math. So it's something that students can do together. And then as far as talking about humanizing, we have this ramp analogy that is amazing, that brings it all together. So I'm going to pass it over to Brooke.
Yeah, so when Tywana talks about designing at the margins, that really is what we tried to do. We, like Tywana said, we tried to find the children that were historically excluded and said, if we design around those children, everybody will be in the circle. And so we were doing a really good job of that in content development. And then we got to what Tywana and I thought was going to be the fun part, because we got to work with illustrators to illustrate these books. Okay. And we had all of these ideas, and the illustrator, who was wonderful to work back with, she sent back her first sketches, and Tywana and I patted ourselves on the back and were like, we've killed it. I mean, amazing. So we go into a meeting with our boss, who's Dr. Christopher Childs, who's the visionary behind Humanizing Mathematics. And I think we thought he was probably going to send us a prize, because this first sketch, which is just a rough sketch, right? Of like, that's the way it works working with illustrators. You start, it's not in color, it's lines. And he said, boss, look at this. And it was a picture of school children, and they were in front of a school building. And we had diverse identities. We had a child in a wheelchair. We had gender diversity, ethnic diversity. I mean, we had nailed it. And Chris looked at it for about 5 seconds and said, I hate everything about this. And I was like, huh. It's like, well, we'd like to hear more about that. And Tywana and I started being like, well, look, boss, we've got the child in the wheelchair. We've got a differently abled child. We have, a child that's off doing this. We have children being social. So he was like, really look at it. So we looked at it, and I think Tywana came up with, she said, I got it. She was like, I'm sorry. She said, we forgot to put a handrail on the staircase steps. And she said, that's a problem, and we'll add that. And so he said, no, that's not it. And then he asked just a really hard, an easy question, I guess. He said, have you all ever ridden a bike? And we were like, what? Where is this going? Yes, we've ridden a bike. You want us to add a kid on a bike into the picture? Okay, I'm sure the illustrator could do that. Said yes. And he said, have you ever pushed a stroller? And I was like, yeah, I have. But that's weird in front of a school. Like, why are the kids going to be pushing strollers? And then I'm trying to think. Oh, then he said, have you ever ridden a skateboard? And I was like, absolutely not. I would break a hip for sure. But I know people not skateboard. And he said, if you're doing any of those things, can you use stairs? And we said, well, no. He said, what can you use? And I said, a ramp. And so then Tywana and I were like, no problem. We'll add a ramp. Done. Like, let's think it's great. And he said, no. He said, get rid of the stairs and make the ramp central, because everybody can use a ramp to get in a school building, but not everybody can use stairs. And that really turned into our mantra for the curriculum in many ways, to be honest, was, are we building ramps or are we building staircases? Because not everybody has access to a staircase, but everybody can use a ramp. So I really think when you visualize that, that is what tells the story of humanizing, honestly. It is a ramp so that every child can access joyful and high quality mathematics instructions.
I love that story. It's such a clear, anyone who doesn't work in a classroom, who doesn't understand what it's like to be in a classroom and may have a child who is looking at, this curriculum, can understand that. Right?
Exactly.
That it's just an easy story for people to understand. I love it.
Right. Yeah, because we're not necessarily lowering the expectations. We're just actually making it possible for more students to be able to meet it. So just love that. Yeah.
Well, and it's about access, right? Like, so that idea of when we take a ramp, we're really looking at access for everybody versus just a select few with a scaffold of type for others.
That's what I was going to say. Exactly. Not access as an afterthought. Not, oh yes, we have a wheelchair ramp in the back of the building, or which is oftentimes what I think about when we look at how we're providing access to other learners. Is it's an add-on. It's a different thing they do. It's we're still not treating them as part of the classroom, right? We're saying, well, this is what you get because you're not there yet. So it truly is about making sure all children have access. And for me, and I know Molly and Heidi, this, I talk a ton about joy. I think it's a lot about kids having a joyful math experience. The images are designed to be joyful. The tasks are designed to be joyful, even though sometimes they talk about really hard concepts. It's about kids really forming what can they do to make a difference? How can they have a positive impact in the world? And it's so fun for Tywana and I to, we piloted it this fall, so we got to see it in real classrooms. And I'm actually teaching, it's a pre-K through 5 curriculum. So we started with pre-K, which was also a learning experience and still is for us. And I actually teach pre-K on Fridays, so I'll be there bright and early tomorrow morning ready to teach pre-K. But it has been so fulfilling to see how much joy children find in this curriculum. It's hard to even describe what we've seen so far.
So I want to just go back. I know that we have other questions to ask, but I just want to go back because the joy can only come with access. And you created that access by, I'm just repeating your words, right? By planning not for the average student, so that anybody on this end or this end is going to have to get in the side door. You planned for anybody who's marginalized. So that equals everyone has access, so everyone can experience joy. Good work. I mean, that's not how people do it. It isn't historically. So you broke the mold.
Tywana and her team, I will also say, one of the ways we did it is Dr. Childs intentionally built, and Tywana intentionally built, because Tywana was the one on the ground doing the work, built a very diverse team of authors, which also was so key to this, because they all brought differing perspectives. I mean, I would stake money on it's the most diverse authorship team that's ever been put together. Just being honest, we're so proud of all the folks that authored this curriculum, and you see their lived experiences come up in it. I mean, I think it's unit 2, isn't it, Tywana, where there's a whole unit where the children learn about African culture. Like that's the foundation of the unit. And it was the lead author on that unit was one of our authors that was raised in African culture. And she brought all her experience to that. And she specifically was from Nigeria. So you'll see these beautiful Nigerian prints and all of these things she brought to the lessons because that was her lived experience. And now we're getting to expose other children to it.
Yeah. And I'll say that as, you know, my identity as being a Black woman, I can only bring my experience with my writing or within the curriculum itself. So being able to discuss that with our team of the diverse writers, it was amazing. We would go back and forth and seeing who can or what needs to be added in there. And then also just because students are learning about Africa, we are also asking, okay, well, you're learning about this new culture, which I learned tons of things, that's why I say it's amazing for students, but it's also amazing for teachers. Because when you're sitting there, you're like, wow, I didn't know this. So you're learning all of these new things and you're able to experience other cultures, but we're also asking you, how does that relate to you? Do you celebrate some sort of things like that in your within your family or in your identity? So you're able to bring yourselves into the whole classroom, and as well as still math is always up front. So I always said that was with the team. Like we're always putting the math up front, and we have these contexts to be able to bring that access to allow students to bring themselves into the classroom.
I just feel like this is not, it's so revolutionary in the way that it was done, because it wasn't just a bunch of the same people sitting in the room trying to bang out, you know, a curriculum because they all think in the exact same way. So
we pushed each other a lot, I can tell you. There was many times where Tywana and I were like, what about this? And Tywana would be like, Brooke, stop going down the rabbit hole. Because I would be like, what about But they stayed really focused on that. And I think Tywana could talk about some of these finer points, but there's also some really unique features in the curriculum that I'll let her talk about. But one that stands out is that, because it just came up last week in pre-K, is every unit has a mathematician spotlight. And that's not unique to curriculum. Let me say that. There's other curriculum that do. But it's also not mathematicians from the 1700s we're talking about. We're not talking about, you know, all the people that kids have already learned about. Last week in pre-K, their mathematician was Jeremy Harper, who you've probably never heard of, but Jeremy Harper set the Guinness Book of World Record by counting to 1 million. It took him 89 days and he counted 16 hours a day. So if you could have seen these pre-kids' faces when I was telling them that, we were explaining to them, he's a mathematician too. He counted, and that's something mathematicians do. So breaking the mold of what they think of a mathematician is. One of the coolest parts, and Tywana, expand on this, is every lesson's learning goal starts with, today I can be a mathematician by.
And that's so critical, right? Because I feel like we say, like, we want kids to have access to literacy ideas. So we switched the book to be like representative of culture, right? And we were like, oh, check. We pat ourselves on the back and we're like, oh, we did that one, good. When it comes to mathematics, we're often like, okay, you will fit into this mathematics box, whatever the box is that we've designed, even if we think or feel that we've designed it in a way that's supposed to encourage joy and access and discussion and all of these things. But the who does well and who experiences joy is still often very limited. And so seeing that mathematicians and the idea of who and what it means to be a mathematician at an appropriate grade level, because I think that's like an excellent example, right? Little children are so enamored with big number ideas, right? Like no real.
A million is always the answer, right?
They were so pumped to talk about a million last week. They were all in.
Right.
So it's like that idea of like having an understanding of what that is and how long it would take to count to that, and like the numbers that nest inside. All of those things are explored with a amount of wonder that is appropriate for the age and opens them up to, like, I could, by learning this mathematics, by learning to count, by participating in that, we can also be like this mathematician. So it builds bridges between students thinking about themselves and other people doing that work.
Exactly.
Yeah, to want to talk a little bit about the math norms in the curriculum, because that's where the mathematician piece comes from. And I think Heidi and Molly would love those.
Yeah, so definitely. So in our curriculum, so we highlight our math norms. So these math norms, they start from pre-K all the way up into grade 5, where they start to learn about that a math norm is mistakes help me learn. So I highlight my mistakes. If I'm going to get something wrong, it's okay. This is going to help me learn in the future. Or we're going to start and talk about each other's thinking. So these math norms, we use these throughout the curriculum in order to highlight and to make students, again, feel comfortable, feel confident in their learning as a capable mathematician. So it's all about making sure that we're pulling out the students' strengths and being able to have these conversations. You have to teach that in the classroom as well. Being able to discuss, share each other's ideas, to talk about your math thinking, to show math in different ways, and to understand that we will make mistakes and that we can learn from those. So we have these math norms, and we have our images are amazing. So we have these images as well that are associated with the math norms that students will see starting from pre-K all the way up until grade 5 that support them.
And they're very developmentally appropriate the way they're introduced by grade level. And it's been fun in pre-K to see how they stick. So I just was at the winter Hanukkah party at my daughter's school in December, and a mom came up to me and said, "Are you the math mom?" And I was a little afraid to answer. And I was like,
I don't know.
I mean, maybe
at my daughter's school. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm the math mom." She was like, "My daughter is in pre-K." And, she told me her name, and she said, "I've never seen anything stick with her like this." She said she never talks about school, but every Friday she comes home and first thing she says is, "I'm a mathematician and here's how." And she goes through what we did in math that day. But she also said she made a mistake one day making a recipe and was literally like, "Oh, shoot, I messed that up." And her daughter said, "Mom, your brain just grew," because we talk about they're finding so much like whimsy and power in those math norms that Tywana developed. And it's been fun to see how sticky they are. And I'm thinking, like, these are 4-year-olds in pre-K.
I mean, imagine a pre-K going all the way through that program, how they would be by middle school.
Exactly.
We can't wait to
sign me up for that
group of kids, because they're going to know about the world around them. They're going to know about math. They're going to feel empowered and like a mathematician. Like, what a cool gift to give to kids.
Yes. And
what a gift that really hasn't been given to kids by a curriculum.
No, we don't believe so.
It's always supplemental. It's always like
it's always the teacher's job to do it, right? To create those norms, to build in the, any cultural anything. It's always the teacher's job to do that. And like you said, Tywana, like, you only have your own lived experience. So that's a fair amount of work to build that in if you're a white woman or whatever.
Right. I'll share with you all that my absolute favorite lesson, we have tons of them, but my favorite lesson is a kindergarten lesson where they're talking about their identity. So we start very young, where they're acknowledging who they are as who they are, what identity means, and then also how that relates to them being a mathematician. So they're able to share stories of their name. So I'm just thinking about myself. Well, my name being Tywana, getting up into the corporate world. I always had problems with people mispronouncing my name. I would even go to Chick-fil-A and I'll say T. I wouldn't even say Tywana because they were like, just totally mess it up. So I'm like, I won't say I was embarrassed with my name, but I'm just like, I won't even worry about it. I won't stress about it. But being able to engage in this lesson, and I was able to model it at a conference one day, just sharing that within this lesson, students are learning to count. So they're sharing their names, they're sharing stories about where their name came from. So while I'm thinking about it as the presenter, I'm like, oh, well, my name, my sister named me. We're all a family of T's. I was able to share this. My dad's name is Thomas. My sister's name is Tanya. My other sister's name is Tony. So I'm looking at, and I'm just excited about it, and I'm involved in the math. And then now students are being able to count their names, count how many letters they have in their name. So they were able to not only share stories about themselves, they're bringing the math. And now we had an opportunity to be able to just bring forward joy in the math. So I'm excited now. I'm learning, oh yeah, I can count Tywana, I can count how many letters that is. And now I'm excited. So I'm thinking about if I was that young, the adult Tywana in kindergarten, how much more comfortable I would have been with my name growing up later on. So I'm super excited for students to be able to start at such a young age and to be able to expand all the way up into 5th grade, and how much they will be able to be more confident in themselves and learning about just all parts of the world and being able to be those capable mathematicians that we want them to be.
Another cool moment at a conference that Tywana also facilitated, she's done lots of those, is it was actually at our HIVE conference, and we were doing, it's a 4th grade lesson, I believe, and they're learning about arrays and multiplication. And we do that by first doing a notice and wonder about a picture of a Diwali festival. And so they're seeing all the lights lined up. And the reason it was so cool is there happened to be a member in the audience that celebrated Diwali. And so in the launch of that lesson, we are talking about like, what different celebrations does your culture have that, that does lights? And every child has something they could contribute. A birthday with candles, or we do fireworks on the 4th of July, or, there's all these different things that children could say. But this participant shared with us afterward, she was like, my whole table was picking my brain about Diwali and what we do and how cool it was. And she was like, nobody's ever asked me before in a context like this. So again, we're picturing, if you're the child in the class that celebrates Diwali, whose holiday is never mentioned in school, right?
Right.
The spotlight's on you in class that day. And so there's all these examples of that throughout the curriculum, where we encourage teachers in the teaching notes to say, like, ask children who has that lived experience, and then ask other children what's similar to that in your culture, so that we can also bridge all these differences between kids. Because I think the PL team did the Diwali lesson in a class, and we had to cut it off because every kid had a celebration with lights, and that was wonderful. And they just kept coming and coming and coming. And then they were able to relate, oh, that's something I have in common with that child. We all have a holiday that uses lights.
Well, and it is, as someone who grew up with Diwali and Christmas, it's that idea of, one of those was like the cultural norm for where I was currently living, and one is the cultural norm of my dad's family. And it's that idea of, when we start with one that might be less known. I mean, now, like, I feel like in the US, there's more of that happening. But when we start with the lesser known, maybe in the larger cultural group, we allow not only students to see themselves in that moment, but we allow other students to realize that even if their particular celebration is not talked about that day, that talking about it is welcome.
Exactly.
And so it's much easier to connect the larger cultural norm to that, but it opens up things, because many years Diwali is around the same time as like the Christmas holidays or Hanukkah, or like, so we have this collection of holidays that we can bring to the fore, but no one's left out in that, versus when we start with the largest cultural norm for the area, and that holiday, let's say, then it feels exclusionary if you don't celebrate that one.
But also it's kind of dumb, because if you're starting it's dumb to start with the one that everyone knows about.
Right.
That's not learning.
Circle, that designing of the margin.
Right, but it's not even learning. Like, let's even take out the margins for this. Like, start with a thing that everyone knows about. Hello, don't go to school. If everyone knows it, they don't even need to go to school.
But yeah, but I totally agree. And so, but back to the margins piece, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah,
if you
sorry.
do, like you said, if I start with Christmas and I'm like, here's a picture of Christmas lights, how many lights are there? If you're a child that only celebrates Diwali, you are unlikely to be like, hi, yeah, in my culture, we have Diwali
Right.
and all the lights we have there, right?
Right.
You're not
Yes.
leading with that. Like you said, Holly, you're leading with, well, the majority of the class celebrates this, so this is what we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you're leading with what is less represented in the classroom,
Exactly.
in your community, and it allows other kids to also, again, just make connections. Like I have learned, I think Tywana would say the same, I've learned so much about other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's similar to what we do. That's similar to this. Like, I've built all these bridges on my own as a 40-something-year-old woman, right? And thinking about how we can really, how children will be able to do that is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But also, like your story of the woman in your workshop. Imagine, I mean, she could have been any age. Let's just say that she was in her 50s. That's a long time to live to never have had anybody ask you about your
Exactly.
celebration.
That's right.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The other cool thing that Tywana and team developed is something called Building Community Through Cultural Experiences, or BCEs. We will have a quiz on what that is for everybody. But
Thank you.
Tywana,
We need more acronyms.
I'm
more
studying.
acronyms is definitely what we need in education.
Yes.
Tywana, talk a little bit about those, because they are definitely a feature that you won't find anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely. So again, it's funny to hear everyone mess up the acronym. So BCTCEs, Building Community Through Cultural Experiences. We have, but students are able to explore real life experiences. So they talk about food insecurity, sustainable communities, and financial literacy. So they, at starting at kindergarten, so they're working all the way up to grade 5.
Oh.
They're able to explore all of these topics within the classroom. And not only just, learning about it, learning what food insecurity is, they go through these series of lessons where they learn about it, of course, and then now they're trying to be advocates on how they can make a change. So we're not only, making sure that they're understanding that they're mathematicians, what can they do within their small little community as a kindergartner? What can you do? Let's start a community garden, or let's go home and talk to your family about food insecurity, or how can we donate to a food pantry? So we're giving, allowing students to be able to be exposed to these different topics, and then also being advocates for change as well.
And doing it in a very intentional way.
Oh, yes.
Children that might be experiencing food insecurity, for example, are feel seen, but not judged, right? Because that was another important part to us, is as we're talking about all of these things, we're also not trying to make anybody feel like they're the subject of the day's project.
Right.
Our team spent a lot of time thinking about language and how we presenting these topics, what the guidance was for teachers. It's really well done to just, support that line of thinking. And again, kids want to be change makers, so they love that.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I mean, kids, it's in their nature for the most part to want to help.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It makes them feel like they can be agents of change, right? Because what we need to be promoting, they do.
Well, and I mean, that's like actual real problem solving, which is what mathematics is, right? Looking at patterns which are happening in your community, and then problem solving. That's basically math. Love that. Love that.
So when a teacher, let's say, is using and adopting the curriculum, and so what would a traditional, or not what would like a unit of study kind of look like for them, and what would a class experience be like for them, as far as a curricular material and kind of the routines and resources that are part of that?
I feel like I need to go get a book.
Yes. I'm
saying it for the people who don't know, Molly.
I know, but
so as being a former classroom teacher, looking at the curriculum itself. So we have teacher narratives that are included within the materials to help to support teachers to be able to have these conversations that we're having. So, I mean, I won't say it's just something that you can just go into the classroom one day and say, hey, all right, let's talk about food insecurity. So we're giving teachers support on how to engage in these conversations, how to and engage in the mathematics as well. Again, as I'll keep saying, that the math is in the forefront. So we're supporting teachers in that. So they are provided with those teacher narratives. Within the lesson itself, it does follow a traditional format where they start with the warm-up, they engage students within the lesson, they give them a launch, and then students are exploring. They're working through different problems, they're talking to each other, they're solving those meaningful math problems that we discussed earlier, they're engaging, they're having fun, and then we bring it all back together where where the teacher is able to bring all of the students' different ways that they explored different problems and bring it all back together into what we call the discuss portion of the lesson. And they're being able to highlight all of that. And again, this is all laid out in the lesson. So we are supporting the teacher not only in our professional learning that happens before they engage with Humanizing Mathematics, but we have that built within each particular lesson to support them on how we continue to put students solved it this way, and now let's look at it this way. So they're able to see these progressions on how students are solving each of the problems and being able to move them forward within it. So they're provided with all of that. We have these beautiful anchor charts that I love to brag on that are, we have, we always say, have these anchor charts in the classroom. So not only are we saying, have these anchor charts, we're providing those as well as what do they look like? What should they include within those? And then we're suggesting, of course, that you create those with your classroom as well, or with the students, as far as with them being engaged in mathematics. But it's all included within the curriculum that teachers will get.
And then one thing that, and we just had a great conversation about this on our math team at Open Up. The number one question I get asked anytime we talk about a problem-based curriculum is, where's the fluency? Because there's this misnomer that we just use this example, like I said in the math team meeting the other day, that people have this idea that procedural fluency and conceptual understanding have to be in opposition of each other. So if you do one, the Tywana team built in fluency builders that are included as well, because we've heard teachers say, like, we still need some fluency. They're different. It is not Mad Minute multiplication things. It's still done in multiple ways, but it's tons of time for them to practice that. And then in K and 1, of course, not in K and 1, in pre-K and K, there are centers. Pre-K especially is very centers based, you would expect, because they're 4, and it's wild, let me tell you. So, they do a lot in centers. And so there's just all these wonderful components. And, Tywana talked a little bit about those student conceptions, and we banned the word misconception in the curriculum. You will not find it. I've searched the PDFs up and down, and Tywana has, and we always say conceptions, because when we say miss, it's like mistake, right? Like something's wrong, and it's their thinking isn't wrong. It's not developed yet. So it's a developing conception. But these charts and tables that Tawana's team created, that's like, if a child is thinking this, ask this, try this. I use those, I can tell you, every Friday with my pre-K. I'm like, oh, let me see. I don't know what to do here. Let me find it, because I'm not an early childhood expert. And it's been massively helpful. So,
and I think that's a really key thing. So if you're a teacher listening who has used another problem-based curriculum, I feel like that's one of the things. I mean, it keeps me employed, so maybe I shouldn't say this, but the idea of like sitting with teachers and helping them to know, okay, like if this happens then, or if the student is thinking this, then we're going to try this. But not everyone has, like, I'm not with all my teachers every day. Like, it's that idea of like, what do you do in those moments? What do you do when, a child says something and you're like, I really actually don't know where this thinking is going, or where it might be, or how do I provide a visual for the student in this moment, or how do I provide a tool that will help make sense of that for them? And I think having that in a problem-based curriculum, particularly for a pre-K to 5 environment, many elementary teachers are not specialists only in mathematics.
Exactly.
They have a large breadth of content and pedagogy and all this that they need to be experts in because they're working, with early learners. And so this idea of expecting them to have all of that immediately is not realistic. And in all cases, and everyone's lived experience with the mathematics is different. And so having that is key.
Well, I was a middle school math teacher, right? And so I'm very familiar with middle school math. Early childhood is not my jam. You all, if you could hear me talk, I think I'm an early childhood expert. I probably
she does.
Because the lessons, I'm not kidding you, are so well done. And I didn't write the lessons, clearly. They would not have let me. Are so well done that when I finish a lesson, I'm like, oh, I totally get cardinality and one-on-one work on it. It's like PD for me every lesson I teach because there's so much there that I'm like, done, check that off my list. So when I think about the teacher shortage and all the early year teachers and all of this, I think there's so many supports built in that really will help them understand how the math is developing. And like you said, Heidi, what to do to help this child and how to push this child further. Like, it's really cool. One of the other thing I think you do have to talk about, I keep saying this about a lot of things, but just is the assessment in the curriculum is so different.
Yes. So we have reimagined assessment. So we have these things called experiences. So within our units, students are engaged in bite-sized pieces of learning, which we call lesson series. And then they engage in these experiences where the teacher is able to assess students within those small bite-sized pieces of learning, those lesson series, and then prepare them for the next group of lesson series. So within a unit, instead of waiting to the very end, because again, I was a former teacher, and I would, I'm thinking I'm doing my jam, I'm teaching, I got it all, my kids got it, and then I give them the unit test. I'm like, what happened? So instead of waiting to the very end, they are engaged in those small pieces. We have these experiences in between. And then again, the teacher is able to reassess and to scaffold within the curriculum itself in order to engage students within the learning before getting to the very end of the unit. And then also outside of those experiences that we have that are assessments as well, we have our interim assessments that do support the major work of the grade. So we have these small assessments or experiences that we call within the units. And then, of course, we have these interim assessments that are able to engage within the major work of the grade. So making sure that students are aligned within their grade level content. It's all aligned. It's all, again, math focused. So not only are they being able to bring themselves into the classroom, they're learning, we're making sure we're constantly having these checks within instead of making it until the very end and we're like, we don't know what to do now. So we have those embedded in.
The humanizing approach. Like we wanted assessments to be humanizing as well. And I won't tell you this story, but I will. So when we started and we were like trying to figure out, we were trying to crank it out faster than 5 years. We were like, we're going to partner with an assessment company. Now, I'm not going to name the assessment company. So we're going to partner with an assessment company. We told them our vision. They were like, our jam is humanizing assessments. And we were like, say less. Here's a unit. Give us the assessment. So they sent us back the prototype. And we were like, where's the humanizing part? We couldn't figure out the humanizing part. So we asked them, and I promise you that are going to think I'm making up the story. But they said, well, look at problem 3. And I was like, I'm looking at it. What's the humanizing part? And they said, well, it's about wine and selling tacos. So we added in another culture so that kids see themselves in the assessment. And I mean.
So only people named Juan.
Only
sell
people
tacos. Yes.
We were like, yeah, we think we're going to go another direction, but thank you. And so then we went on our own and did the assessment. Well, we worked with some, wonderful, super intelligent people in the assessment space to kind of reimagine it. But it was also the first time that we realized nobody's actually thought that much about humanizing assessments either. Like, I think just changing a name or a context is creating something humanizing. And instead, we needed a whole approach to like how we're their learning, how our teachers responding to it, all of these things. So it's
it's so
tricks also that they're strength-based noticing, essentially, like how we're looking for student strengths in the assessments versus just wrong, right.
Right.
it just took us a whole nother direction. So we have learned lots of our mistakes in this process.
Last 5 years.
5 years of learning, right?
5 years of learning. So
yeah. But it seems very, the assessment piece seems very reflective of how life works, right? Because we now, in this age, we get assessment in our real lives very quickly. Like, you try to put something in the computer, I'm giving like a very vague example, but like you try to put something in there and it doesn't allow you to do it. And there's your feedback. You can't do that. Or, whatever. That's like such a lame example, but also, starting your car, like any of those things.
Doing it in a more human way, we hope will eliminate some of the test anxiety children have.
Yeah.
I had this theory. I think Heidi and I talked about this theory that, like, when does joy leave education? 3rd grade, because that's when state standardized assessments start. Until winter break with my 3-year-old. She loves her school. And so every day we had to play school with her babies. And the first day of playing school, she gets these workbooks and coloring books and all this nonsense we have. And the first thing she says is, we got to give the babies their testises today. And I was like, their testises? What are you talking about? She was like, yeah, that's what you do at school. You got to take the testises. And I was like, we have a much worse problem than I even anticipated. If somehow a 3-year-old, I'm assuming through like what she's, consuming the little bit of TV and screen time and those things she has, already knows about testises in school. So I think what Tywana and team have developed really tries to flip that on its head and their experiences. And yes, there's one interim assessment, but by the time you get to that interim and you've had these experiences with your teacher, you've gotten feedback, it should be a lot less scary.
Very sure. Yes.
Well, it's like and it's not just, and like I want to put a stamp on this. It's not just that they changed the word assessment to experience.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's not.
So, putting a stamp on that because the idea of, we say this so often in education, and like this is the educator, like we were like, oh, we're formatively assessing. We're not assessing. I'm like, no. And then we're like over here making, I walk by walls all the time that have like red, yellow, green,
or grading homework,
right, with kids' pictures on it, right? And so that idea of like, I'm just bringing my learning to another experience,
exactly,
where I can show what I know, and as an instructor, I'm looking at it from these are the things my students know, and here are the next steps after that. Versus these are the things that my kids did not get. So it's an experience both for the child that is different and for the educator that is different.
Well, Tywana doesn't even know this, but when I started the little pre-K journey, I was like, I'm not doing the experiences with the kids. I was like, I'm not testing 4-year-olds. It's not happening.
Look at her. She's I'm writing you up.
I was like,
you're getting a red mark.
I was like, oh, I'm not being a very good tester for this curriculum. So I was like, fine, let's do an experience. And the kids love the experiences. Because they're like, oh, Miss Brooke, let me show you what I know. And then I could do this. And then I could think about this. And like, they're pumped to show their reasoning and thinking as 4-year-olds, right? And I think we can keep that curiosity going.
Right, because they haven't been ruined yet.
Exactly.
Yes. They haven't been ruined yet. No school has ruined them yet. It's perfect.
And I think we'll see that translate to state assessments. That's the question people ask me. But the deal with state assessments, and Heidi, I know you and I have talked about this a lot. Most kids fail before they ever pick up the pencil because they're determined they're going to fail because all of the classroom experiences have been dehumanizing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, what's the point of trying? So, I think we're going to see this shift in mood for them. Like, I forgot I had all these experiences with my teacher. I'm ready.
Well, and it puts those state testings and things like that in their proper place. This is a day where you show some of your learning versus this year where you have consistently shown the learning and your progress and how you are thinking. And ultimately, that is much more valuable to the larger society and community in which this child lives. than one state marker on a particular
Exactly.
day. And so, I understand that those things, currently need to exist in the society we live in, but it's that idea of, can we put them in their proper place?
Right.
Yep.
Really agree.
It's very exciting, girls.
We're very
So-
excited.
Yes, very.
Like other things that open up resources, it is openly accessible.
Mhm.
There are, so everything's available online, including slide decks that you can, Google slide decks that you can customize for yourself. All that's openly accessible. There will be print materials for sale, just like everything we do. And the anchor charts, like if you want to buy the ready to print anchor chart, those are there, and manipulative kits and all of those things, like a typical curriculum. But for those teachers that don't have the support or don't have state funding right now, or all of the things that they're facing, will still be able to access it and use it. And, we hope they will, because we got to see it in action. The last thing I'll say is that Tywana and I got to a really cool school in Atlanta, piloted the curriculum called Globe Charter Academy, and it's a dual immersion school. They teach in Mandarin, Spanish, and English.
Nice.
No, what did I say?
Wow.
I need a fourth one, French also. Sorry, French. And so Tywana and I go, and they put us in a classroom. Tywana and I were like, they'll put us in the English classrooms for the day, right? Because we want to see humanizing at work. The first class we went to was a French classroom. I don't speak one word of French. But because of amazing supports that Tywana put in, from the anchor charts to the math language routines to this other multilingual support, I was able to follow along with that lesson. Like, I was like, oh, that must be what division means in French. Like, I was like making all these connections in my brain. That was maybe the coolest humanizing experience I've had so far, because I got to see how it's going to support tons of diverse learners, from students with disabilities to newcomers, multilingual learners, all of these pieces. It was just fascinating
Amazing
to watch, and really validating, because again, I got to see what it was like to be a child in a classroom that doesn't speak the language, and was like, oh wait, I can still do this.
Right.
Yes.
Like, how cool is that going to be for a child that isn't fluent in English yet?
Very cool.
It's so hard. I think people forget, because in the US, we just think that we're real good if we speak one language. It's so hard.
So hard. I mean, Tywana and I
So hard.
like, it was real uncomfortable for a while, but then we caught on, and we're like, oh
yeah, it was amazing to watch. Yes. Yeah.
But you were welcomed in that space too, and had access to
right.
You had access to the curriculum because of the design of the curriculum, which allows everyone to have access, which I think is the critical.
And then there was joy for you.
And then we went to a kindergarten classroom that afternoon that was in French, and they made me practice counting to 5 in French. The kids did, because they were like,
oh my gosh. Yes.
Oh, I could do that.
Amazing too. I loved it.
Yes. My Kentucky accent speaking French was very lovely.
I would like to hear that. Can you do it?
It's not for YouTube, I can tell you. It's not.
No? Okay.
Okay.
You can do some choral counting in French.
Choral counting. It was like, they were like, and I was like,
Oh God, that's amazing.
It's really so much kudos to Tywana and her team, because they have, I can't tell you the number of hours Tywana especially has poured into this curriculum, and a shout out to Christopher Childs, who really, like I said, was the visionary here, and he trusted us to do it and provided support and pushed back when we built stairs instead of ramps.
Yeah, I like it.
It's just been the coolest experience. And so, it's available for use this fall, and we hope to see it in lots of classrooms. You can reach out to Tywana or I, or open up, and, we'll talk to you about it and cheerlead it through it. We actually have a few print units left. If anybody wants to do a free pilot, we'll send them on to you. And, we'd love to see what folks think. And, we're excited for a more joyful, humanizing math experience for all children.
Amazing. Well, good work to both of you. Tywana, this will be your legacy, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
I mean, you also have kids, but
I know, right?
It was so fun though. So Tawana's oldest son came to our conference in July, and he got to see the books and materials. And he was so proud of his mom. It
He
was.
was.
Mhm.
I get teary thinking about it because I was
Yeah.
just like, man, what a great example Tawana's been for
Yes.
Mhm.
her boys, and what just what an example she's going to be for so many children who are going to learn about her through the process of humanizing.
We love it. We have some at home.
I know.
And
I'm regretting not having one like right here so I can put it up.
Yes.
But we definitely recommend reaching out, doing a pilot, contacting them and seeing what you can do in your classroom, because it would be an amazing experience for your students and for you as an educator. So we really hope that you will reach out at that location.
Yeah. Thank you guys both so much for giving us some of your time today and sharing about your experience with the program, and giving everybody a different view of what mathematics could be.
Well, thank you all for letting us, and thank you for right now to really promote by having women and non-binary folks on this season. I think that's really special, and that's something people notice, and is amazing that you all are making the effort to do that, because it's not always easy to find these folks in the math ed world, because it is very male dominated. So I think
it is, but it is, and yet when you start trying, it's amazing the amazing women and non-binary folk you can find when you spend a little more time looking outside
the traditional folks.
Yeah.
I mean, this season, with looking just for half the population, we were full faster and added shows.
I love that.
We added.
Wow.
Added
shows. Ever. I don't know.
Yeah. And we've had to finally say, like, we don't have any more space this season, but we're putting you on tap for next season. Like, we're just gonna, because we've always been very intentional about it. Over 50% of our guests need to be women or non-binary folk. Like, that's hands down. And we try and be very intentional about having a diverse ethnic background as well. That's always been our platform. But this year we were just like,
I love it.
Gotta do it.
This is the year to do it, correct?
Yes, that's
I could say other things, but I won't.
Yeah.
I'll be good.
Yes.
But thank you so much. And we can't wait to hear and see more from all of this amazing work in the classroom. And
yeah. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you. Awesome.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
Well, that was super exciting.
I know.
I can't wait to dive more into it.
Well, and I think that, as more and more people have opportunities to kind of look at it and preview and see the real intentionality behind not only the access to mathematics, but the intention of including everybody in it, I think is so powerful and really has been missing from the space. And a lot of spaces, it's like, oh, we touch on it, but not necessarily with the same intentionality.
No, I mean, I think they take a program and then, as they were describing with that one assessment, well, Juan's in there, so obviously it's humanizing. My word. Oh, my word.
Next week.
Yeah, next week is, 3 in a row for us. This is,
I know, and maybe more, because I think another one at the beginning of February as well. I think we go almost till February break for us. So
yeah. Yeah. So next week we're going to be talking to Deborah Creighton, or Deborah Pert Creighton. So that should be exciting, because she also has a newish book that's been out. And you can always find our Math Activators book at Didex. And
Until then, we hope that you keep math creative, curious, and inclusive for everyone. Have a great evening. Good night.